Hello, everyone, and welcome to this new and exciting podcast organized by Samadhan Life Sciences. Today, I have the pleasure of having with me Sathya, who is a PhD student working in University of Melbourne. Apart from that, she also has experience of working in University of Rochester in US. Apart from that, she also has an experience of working in IISc Bangalore. Now, with the mixed bag of experiences that she has been an ardent researcher during her career up till now. So, with the mixed bag of the experiences that she has, I think that she would be a perfect match to the vision of Samadhan Life Sciences, where we create awareness about the broad positions, be it masters, be it PhD positions, and be it internship positions. She would be able to narrate her experiences in a nice way so that students can learn from it. She would be talking about the application procedure in US because she has experience of that. She would also be talking about the experiences that she have from the from the Australian university, how you can apply to Australian universities. She would be telling you how you can network with the professors, how you can contact them, and a lot. So I welcome you, Satya, on board. Please come here. Please come on board and share your experiences with us.
Hi,
So
thank you for the introduction. That was really nice.
thank you, Satya. Again, I would be very thankful to you for coming on board, sparing so much time. I understand that you keep extremely busy with your research work, but again, thank you for sharing your experiences with the students.
That's my pleasure. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes. So let us start the basic podcast. First of all, I would go through the introduction portion where you can share up your background a little bit so that students can learn that where are you from and what studies you have pursued up till now. So can you basically tell us about the academic and professional journey uh, that you have experienced?
Yeah, so I did my undergraduate in Anna University, Chennai, and it was a BTech in Industrial Biotechnology degree. And immediately after completing my undergraduate, I got my PhD admission in University of Rochester in the US, and it was a PhD in Biophysics, Structural, and Computational Biology. I was there for 18 months, but then I had to resign from there for a really controversial reason, which I can explain in the podcast. So after resigning from there, I anyways wanted to like reapply for PhD programs because I did not lose my ambition for science even after that, and I did get rejected after my resignation, but I utilized that time to engage myself in research through an internship in IISc in Bangalore, and after that I got my PhD admission in University of Melbourne in Australia. So that is my background, and yeah, I can go into the details when you ask questions one after the other.
Satya, one quick question is that many students ask me that because in India, this is a recent concept that just after your BTech, you can go for your PhD. This is a recent concept in India. But in abroad, can a student after his bachelor's directly apply to a PhD position since you have done that? What is the possibility and how do you stand? Where do you stand when a master's course student is applying for a PhD position and you being a bachelor's applying to a PhD position, where do you stand?
The thing is, like applying to a PhD position immediately after bachelor's is not a recent concept. I would say that it's been there for a long time, but then people didn't know much about it. But then it's been there for a long time, and yeah, you are eligible to apply directly after BTech. I would say it is not impossible to get an admission, but it is difficult to get an admission. So to tell about my experience on how I managed to get my PhD admission directly after undergrad is that I had a really high motivation statement in my application. And it's because my area of interest is structural biology, and I got this interest after reading about the Nobel Prize journey of Dr. Venki Ramakrishnan. So
Yeah.
I had a really huge ambition, and during my interviews I spoke in such a way that I have a really high ambition, and I think that gave them an impression that I'm really motivated about science. And I also managed to have two publications in my undergrad. Like, one was a research paper and one was a review paper. Actually, my batch was hugely affected by the COVID-19 lockdown. It's like only for the first 3 semesters I went to the college for in-person classes, and the remaining semesters I had mostly online classes because of COVID-19. And that was also a reason why I was deprived of opportunity to get a wet lab experience in a lab, like doing an internship. So I did some computational projects during my undergrad. Although it is computational work, I managed to do a publication based on that work. And also, I did write a review paper. For writing review papers, you don't need a data. Like,
Yes.
you just have to read hundreds of literature and research papers to write the reviews. So I did manage to write a review paper during my undergrad itself, and I think those things helped me to get the admission. And one more factor was that the person from whom I got a recommendation letter was a structural biologist in a really big place. Like, he was an alumni of Anna University, but
Mhm.
he was working in University of Hamburg, which is a really big place for structural biology research. So I
Yeah.
think this recommendation letter also helped me get the admission.
Yes. So I would want to make this clear to all of the students. Since Satya, she is a BTech student, BTech biotechnology from Anna University. She managed to get a PhD directly. So that can be possible. Having said that, you should project yourself in such a way that yes, the interview panel thinks that yes, you are willing to come to complete a PhD, and you have that factor in you that yes, you can complete a PhD just after your bachelor's. It is difficult, but yes, it is possible. She had a good research paper, she had a good review article, I mean, she had a good recommendation letter, so all that counts. So this is what I wanted to make sure. Now, the second question that I want to ask you, being from India and having done your BTech in biotechnology, many students think that job is the right thing to do for me. So, what inspired you to pursue your PhD and basically choose University of Melbourne for your research?
Okay, so the first thing how I got my motivation in science is after reading the autobiography book of Nobel laureate Dr. Venki Ramakrishnan. So before that, I took biotechnology because I liked the subject biology during my school and high school. So that was my favorite subject, and that is the only reason I took biotechnology for my undergrad. But after reading the autobiography of Nobel laureate Dr. Venki Ramakrishnan, I had a different perspective about the scientific world, and it gave me a real motivation in science, and it inspired me a lot. And it gave me a really high motivation for doing science. So that is why I wanted to apply for PhD. And I didn't want to go to an industrial job because I thought I would not be happy in an industrial job, because I'm someone who wants to try different things, experiment different things, and try to make new findings every day. So I think industrial job is not my cup of tea. So
Yes.
that is why I didn't choose to go for an industrial job. And to tell about University of Melbourne, yeah, actually after my resignation from the US, I had some drawbacks in my profile. The first thing, I did not have a master's degree. But then, except in US, for all the other countries, you need a master's degree for getting into PhD. Only in US you are eligible. So that was one drawback. And the other drawback was I didn't have a good reason for resignation. Like, my reason for resignation was really controversial. So that was another drawback. And in Australia, like you can get into PhD. Like you don't need a master's degree, but you need enough research experience to get into PhD. Like in Australia, getting into direct PhD is very difficult. The only reason I got here is because I had 18 months of full end research experience from the US. So and to tell about why I applied here, I looked into the research work done by people here, and I found that the cryo-electron tomography work that was done by my professor here, Dr. Devnath Gosal, was really interesting to me. And yeah, the work was really interesting to me, and I thought, why not? I can apply for a lab, and if it works, then it will be a good place for me. So yeah.
Another question that I would want to ask is that the second choice generally that people have if they are not going to US for PhD is Europe. So why didn't you switch to Europe?
Yeah,
And
because I don't have a master's degree. Like I'm not
okay.
eligible for applying in Europe. Actually, I did make applications thinking that they might consider my research experience as adequate or equivalent to that of a master's degree, but I got rejected there. And
Mhm.
I know the reason for my rejection is because I don't have a master's degree. That is why I didn't apply there. But Europe is a really great place for
Mhm.
biotechnology research.
So since Satya has cleared this, that US is a place where you can directly apply for PhD after your bachelor's, and the same thing can be applied to Australia, but if you have a good research experience, only then. Europe does not accept applications after your UG directly to a PhD. So this is, I believe, clear to everybody whoever is listening to this podcast. Now, you had mentioned that you have also research experience in IISc Bangalore. So how did the experience at IISc Bangalore prepare you for this international opportunity?
Yeah, it was a really good training experience because like the difference between Indian laboratories and the any laboratory in abroad is funding. Like in like although in IITs and IIScs they have like improved the research infrastructure, still it is behind the other developed countries. So you have lack of funding, because of which like you'll be trying to manage your extent of research, and you'll have a different kind of experience there compared to any lab abroad. So it was an intensive period of training for me, wherein like I was working for nearly 12 hours per day, and which is not the case in abroad. So like that was a really intensive training experience that prepared me for a better lab in Australia. So the main thing is in Indian laboratories you don't have a really good work life balance. Like they work on all weekends, and you'll be working nearly 12 hours per day, and they don't care about like whether you have good sleep or like you get time to eat. You don't have those things in Indian labs, but that that was like a good training experience which prepared me for a better lab here. But in abroad you can have a good work life balance.
Yes. One quick question, Satya, that many students ask me that how they can get research experience in IISc Bangalore. Is there a particular program to which you can apply to IISc Bangalore, or you directly apply to supervisors and ask if they have any vacancy for any internship or research experience? How do you do that?
Yeah, I directly sent an email to my professor, Dr. Ashok Sekar. So I didn't apply to any programs. I directly sent email asking him whether he has any positions. I asked him whether he has any JRF positions, which are paid positions. But then at that time, he didn't have funding to provide me a JRF position. So he just offered me an unpaid internship position. So yeah, I just directly emailed him.
Yes. So this is again a question that often students ask me, that should they apply directly? Should they apply only when the program is advertised from the universities or IITs or IISc, or they can directly write the email to the students, to the professors? Yes, you can write the email to the professor. If he has a vacancy, of course, he will reply back to you. And if there is a position in a scientist's lab, then also if it, even if it is unpaid, then also you should apply, depending upon your condition, of course, because it will give you a lot of experience, as Satya is telling us that in IISc Bangalore, she got a lot to learn, which actually helped her for applying to post PhD positions. Now, coming to the application preparation. Now, since you have applied to US universities also, since you have applied to Australian universities also, and you have an experience of European universities also, where you could not make up because of your you did not have the master's degree. So, can you help us? Can you help the students that how they can identify and shortlist the universities and programs for their PhD applications?
So how I shortlisted my universities is based on like my research area of interest. So my area of interest is structural biology. So I just typed in Google like which are some good universities for structural biology research, and I got some universities list, and I went into the web page of each department, and like I did see whether there are some good research, structural biology research happening there, and based on that I shortlisted my universities. And I would say like one important thing to consider is the number of labs which are of interest to you in that university. Like one mistake I did in US, especially University of Rochester, is that in University of Rochester there was only two structural biology labs, and both of them did really good research, and that is why I like accepted the offer and I went there. But the problem was both of them were spouses, like the PI or supervisors of both the labs were spouses. So it means like it is like more or less the same lab. It is not two different labs, and I came to know only after going there. And for that reason I was not able to switch labs when I had a controversial issue with my PI. So that is one thing. So when you are looking for any labs in the US, it is better if you have at least 3 or 4 labs that aligns with your research interests. So just in case something happens similar, like a similar situation happens to you, like that happened to me, you can switch the labs in the same university instead of resigning. Mine was a very peculiar case wherein I was not able to switch the labs because of that reason.
Okay, so here I would want to highlight that students always think that whenever you are going to abroad, the lab or the university would always be very good and there would be no problems. We always think that the grass is greener on the other side. But the problems that Indian students face in Indian universities, the problems can be same in the abroad universities as well. As Satya told us that she had some problems with the PI, and because of which she faced some problems in University of Rochester, and the problems became so big that she had to resign from the university and then apply again to the abroad positions. This really creates a lot of pressure on the students. So I'm not saying that all the universities or all the professors can create such kind of situation, but yes, if you are going abroad, such kind of situation can occur, and you should be mentally prepared for that. And you should have, as she said, whenever you are applying to university, think that you at least have 3 to 4 labs over there that align with your research area, so that if not one lab, you can switch over to the other or switch over to the other. Very good point, Satya, that you made over here. I also want to ask you that students often have a confusion that whether they should be aiming at a higher QC rank university or they should focus upon the lab name. What, according to you, is more important?
Yeah, according to me, the QS ranking doesn't matter at all. Only the specific lab that you are applying is of importance, because I have seen like even in universities with really like big QS ranking, 1 or 2 of the labs won't be doing really great research. At the same time, in a university where the QS ranking is not so high, I've also seen some labs wherein they are doing some cool research. They publish their papers in Nature and Science journals, which is like really awesome. So I think the QS ranking is not of importance, and the students should just focus on what that particular lab is working on, and what that particular PI is doing, and their publications. And also only the publications alone doesn't matter. The extent of research the lab does alone doesn't matter. It is really, really important to know whether that supervisor is a good person, like whether he's a good mentor for the students. And yeah, one way to like check whether the person is good is like in Europe or Australia, you will have an in-person interview with the person, so you can like understand to some extent during the interview session itself, and you can ask some questions like how you will mentor me and how you will guide me through the PhD journey. So like based on their answers, you will be able to understand whether he or she is a good mentor. But in US, you don't get that option because you don't get a lab till the completion of your first year. Only in the second year you join a lab. So in that case, like you can get help from your seniors in the university. Like for me, my seniors did advise that the lab in which I joined was not a good lab, especially for international students. But I had to join because I had no other option, because there was only two structural labs and I didn't have any other option. So that was a problem for me. But for other cases, you can get advice from seniors in the university, and also you can like talk to people in LinkedIn. Like if you're trying for a position in any European or Australian universities and you're interested in a particular lab, you can see whether that person is like any of the lab member is in LinkedIn, and you can message that person asking about how is the PI and whether he's a good mentor for the students, and those kind of questions.
Is that advisable to connect with the lab member beforehand, because the lab member might tell the PI that someone was asking about you? Would that not be creating a negative
It is,
impact?
yeah, it is not something illegal. Like you have to be careful with the questions.
Yes.
Like you cannot like randomly ask, oh, I want to join this lab, so is a PI a good person? You cannot ask like that. You have to
Mm.
be like really careful and diplomatic with the words you use in the sentences. So you can like carefully word the sentence and ask, like, I'm interested in the work done by this lab, and I'm looking for a PhD position. So just like to know how the mentoring process will be, and whether we get like whether the supervisor is approachable, and those kind of questions. Like you can ask in a diplomatic manner and in a carefully worded manner.
Okay, yeah, I understood that. So the next question is, what are the key factors you considered when deciding to apply abroad?
So I considered only the research
Labs.
work done by the labs. I did not consider the QS ranking or even the stipend. Other things, they don't matter to me, because I'm not here for the money. And
Mm.
yeah, I did not come here for money. So I did not consider the other factors like the salary or the QS ranking or the other things. But I just considered the like what work they are doing, and whether the lab is publishing frequently. Like
Okay.
you join a good lab, but if they don't publish any work, then after completion of your PhD, you will find it really difficult to get a postdoctoral position or even an industrial job. So publications are also important, and it is a way you can like calculate whether you will be able to get enough publications at the end of your PhD.
Yeah.
So I also did see whether my lab is publishing frequently and in really good journals. And yeah, that is all I considered. And I did not consider even the city where the university is situated in, or I did not consider the country or the other things. I did not consider those things. I was only focused on the research.
Okay, so I have heard from many PhD students that are working in US that there is a uh, portal in NIH reporter database, in which all the professors or all the scientists have, I mean, whatever projects they are running and whatever papers they are publishing, everything is mentioned in that database. Is there any such database for Australian professors also? Do you know about? I mean, if someone wants to check out that whether the lab is publishing frequently, or whether the scientist is having any kind of a fund or not. So is there any website or any database like that?
I'm not aware of any such database, but like they every lab and every PI will have a separate website for
Separate
their
website.
lab. So you
Okay.
can just directly go into their lab website, and they will
Okay.
definitely have a tab for like updating their publications. Like every lab has that, so you
Yes.
need not worry about any databases. Like you can directly go into the lab website, and if the person is a really good at updating the website, they will definitely update the publications in the website. So otherwise,
Yes.
like you can just type their name in Google, and
Mhm.
in Google Scholar you can see their publications. Even if they have not updated in the lab page,
Mhm.
uh, they will definitely update in the Google Scholar site.
Yes, and ResearchGate is also one of the portals in which they would be updating things like that. Yes. Another question is, can you share your tips on building a strong academic profile or CV for PhD applications?
Yeah, I would say like start working from your second year of undergrad. Like it's really important to start early so that you need not worry about much things later. So like I know that in the first year or second year, getting an internship position is itself difficult, because even before going for an internship, they ask what have you worked on previously and what
Mhm.
was your previous experience. I know the difficulty because I did have those difficulties during my undergrad. So I would say, like, you can also like, even if you're not able to get a good internship position, you can try writing a review paper like I did. Like mine was a really difficult situation during the COVID-19 lockdown, wherein like I did not get any internship position, not because of other reasons, but because of the lockdown. So I utilized that opportunity to write a review paper. Like you can try working on that, or you can even if you're not able to get a good wet lab experience, you can try doing a computational project like I did.
Mhm.
And also I did a lot of online NPTEL courses, which was like through which I gained a lot of knowledge. Because although you have good professors in your college, sometimes like you don't get a wider experience or a wider knowledge on so many things. And
Yes.
the NPTEL courses that are available are really good, and all of them are handled by IIT professors who are really good at teaching them. And like getting a good score in NPTEL courses is really easy. Like people who have undertaken those courses will know that it's really easy to get 80% or 85% in those courses, and like that also adds on to your CV. So I did complete like nearly 6 courses at the end of my undergrad. And yeah, and I was the course topper in 2 of those courses. And like you can definitely tell that I was a course topper in an exam that was like nationwide. And that also adds on to your achievements. So that was one other thing. And you can definitely apply for internship positions, and you can tell about your skills and experience that you gained from those internship positions. Yeah, these are some things that you can do to build up your CV.
Okay. Many students ask me about the edX courses and Udemy courses and Coursera courses. What do you think about that? Would do they also count when you are applying for a PhD positions or a master position?
I think, like, I first of all, I don't think I'm the right person to answer that question, because I have never undertaken those courses. So without undertaking those courses, I'm not a right person to comment about it. But I think, like, you can tell that you learned a lot from these courses. Like you can explain what you learned from those courses, but I don't think so you can like tell that it was an achievement, because you don't write an examination in those courses. But in NPTEL you write an examination, and your score is
Mhm.
based on an examination. So yeah, that is why I feel NPTEL's courses are better than Udemy and Coursera courses.
Mhm.
So, but still, that is also something that adds on to your CV, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. And I'm not sure how much is the fees for undertaking the Udemy or Coursera courses, but for NPTEL, it is, I think, cheaper. It is a
Yes.
cheaper one compared to Udemy and Coursera.
Okay, I understood that. Yes. So, next question is that how important is networking with potential supervisors and how did you approach it? Asking this question is very important because in Indian scenario, students are very hesitant in contacting to professors of big stature. They do not like emailing them, or they do not, if you are meeting up in a national or international seminar or conference, they do not like talking to them because they will think that what will the other person think about it. So, what is your approach for that?
Yeah, I would say, like, in my opinion, if a professor thinks like approaching through email is not a right thing, or like networking with the students is not a right thing, then that supervisor is not
Mm,
the right person to apply for.
mm,
So
mm,
that lab is not a right lab you should
mm,
work in. So yeah, I would say just don't worry about the stature of the professor or anything. Like, if that professor is a really good person, irrespective of
mm,
their stature and their designation, they will definitely reply to you. Because yeah, I have seen people from a really big stature who are very very humble with students, and that is what is important for a scientist.
mm,
And if that person is not humble enough to talk to students, and if that person is not approachable, then definitely your internship experience or even the PhD journey is not going to be smooth.
mm,
It is also going to be difficult, because if you are not approachable to your professor, then I don't think so you will get a good guidance from the professor. So yeah, don't think about the stature or designation of the professor, and just directly email them. And like in the like wording the email is also important. You have to be
mhm.
polite, and you have to be polite, and also you have to frame your like draft your email in such a way that you are having a huge motivation to work under them, and you are seeking for their guidance. So yeah, that is how you should talk to the professors.
Yeah, one quick question is that if you are in the same city, if you happen to be in the same city, like suppose you are in India, maybe if a student is in India, let us say in near about in IISc Bangalore, is it the right thing to directly give a visit to the professor and meet in person if it is possible? Would that be
I
a
don't
right thing?
think that is a professional thing to do. I won't do
Mm,
that in any case. Even if that
mhm,
person is just next to my house, I would not do that
mhm,
because I don't think it is a professional thing to do. So the right and professional way to contact a professor is only through email, not even
okay.
through phone or any other means. The only
Mhm.
way, professional way to contact is through email.
Okay, yes. So now let us move on to the application process. Now, since Satya, you have the experience of applying to US universities and also to Australian universities, I would want an idea about both of them. Can you tell us the application process, first of all, for the US universities, and then you can go on to the Australian universities?
Yeah, for most of the US universities, you don't need to like talk to the professors before getting admission, because the US universities have this concept of doing lab rotations in the first year. Uh, the thing is, you will be working in three different labs for 3 months each in the first year,
Mhm.
and at the end of the first year, you will be joining in one of those three labs
Mm.
as a permanent PhD student. And in my university, like, we were not supposed to even contact the professors before that. Like, it was something against the rules to contact the professor before getting admission, or like getting an acceptance from the professor
Mhm.
like before the end of the first year. It was something against the rules. So in US, the application process is you directly apply to the program in the university web page, and the documents you will need are your CV, your statement of interest, which is your motivation letter, and the recommendation letters from three of your professors who have like supervised you or like seen your experience or working in the labs. And apart from that, you will need your mark sheets, of course. You should have your transcripts ready while making the applications. So those are the things you will need for the applications in the US. And in Australia, you will have to contact your supervisor even before making the application in the university web page. And in my opinion, like, if you get an acceptance from the supervisor after the interview, getting an offer letter from the university is just a formality. That is what I felt, and that is what all my seniors told me. and but then getting the scholarship is somewhat tricky. Like not all the students get the 100% scholarship in Australia, but in some cases the supervisors will come forward to fund your education and give you stipend even if the student doesn't get the scholarship. But also the supervisor will hire you or give you an acceptance letter for making application in the university web page only if he or she thinks that you are eligible enough or good enough to get the scholarship. So these are some things to think about. But yeah, like if the first thing you should do is to email the professor that you are looking for a PhD position in his or her lab, and definitely they will conduct online interview. And if after the online interview, if the professor feels that you are good enough to join the lab, they will give you a support letter which has to be uploaded in the application. And apart from that support letter, the other documents are your CV and your transcripts that you need to upload. And you also need a research proposal. Like for me, I had to write a research proposal telling what research project I'll be working on.
Mhm.
Or what I would like to work on during my PhD. But it doesn't mean that you'll work on the same project after you join
Yes.
the university. That differs, but you will need a research proposal also for application in the university in Australia.
Okay, yes. Is there any fees associated with the application process?
For US, you have application fees. Like it is approximately, like it differs from university to university. I cannot give a general number, but like it's approximately like around 10,000 rupees. In terms of rupees, it will be around 10,000 rupees for an application. In Australia, I didn't have any application fees.
And this fees in US be waived off? I've heard from students that if you
Yeah, in
write.
some cases, it can be waived off. Like when I applied, some universities like waived off the application fees due to COVID, and for I think the University of Utah, they said like if you submit the application before a particular date. You have no application fees, but if you
Okay.
submit the application after this application date, you will have an application fees. So that is there. And in some other universities they will say if you attend this webinar and if you show the participation certificate or something for attending this webinar in the university, your application fees will be waived off. So those are things that can be looked into. Yeah, students can
So,
definitely see about that.
yeah. So, how many universities did you apply in the US before you got selected to University of Rochester?
I applied to 6 universities and I got an interview call only from University of Rochester, and I got selected only in University of Rochester. I got rejections from the other 5 universities.
Okay. And did you apply to any other universities? Is universities in Australia or University of Melbourne was the first
No,
you applied?
University of Melbourne was the first. Like even like before applying to Australia, I did apply for some places in Canada.
Mhm.
In Canada, again you have to like reach out to the professors through email, and they will conduct an interview. But after that, you have to meet up. Like it is somewhat similar to the applications in Europe and Australia, but there also I got rejected for the reason that I discontinued from US. So that was a controversial reason because of which I got rejected there. And after that, when I applied to Australia, University of Melbourne was the first university because, yeah, I saw that the University of Melbourne is the biggest in Australia. So I wanted to start from the first and then go to the universities in the lower ranking.
Right. Yes, right. So, the next most important question that I get from students is that is there any specific requirement of tests like TOEFL and GRE? Did you give any of them, or is it waived off? What is the situation?
Okay, to tell about GRE, I did write GRE, but I did not use that score in my application. Like it was a less score, but also like it is not important in the recent years to have a GRE score because most of the US universities have waived off the GRE, not because of COVID or any other reason. It's because there is a survey or research finding that the IQ level of the students is not related to the GRE score. Like, it
Mhm.
was a proper study, and it was proved that the GRE score of the students is not at all related to the intellectual ability or IQ level of the students. So it is something that is not required in the application criteria. So that is why most of the universities have waived off GRE. So I would say, like, I would not recommend anyone or advise anyone to write the GRE exam, because like that was an exam that required me to spend a lot of money, time, and energy, which was of no use. So I would not recommend anyone to write the GRE exam, but you have to definitely write one of the English qualification exams like TOEFL or IELTS. I
Mhm.
wrote the IELTS exam. People say that TOEFL is easier than IELTS, but still I wrote the IELTS, and it was easy according to me. Like, it is not something difficult to prepare for. It is a really easy exam. And I also felt that IELTS is widely accepted compared to TOEFL.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think IELTS is a widely accepted qualification exam, and
But if
I
someone does not have this, can he not apply? I have heard that in some universities you can give a certificate that my education has been completed in English, so that can be waived off. Is that the thing?
that is there in some universities, and some universities do like provide that option of waiving of the English language requirement. But I would still recommend any student to write the exam, because it is not something difficult, or it is
Mhm.
not something impossible to clear. It is a really really easy exam. And
Okay.
also that, like, although you have that option in few universities, if you have the IELTS score, it increases your chances, and it increases your options, like the wide
Mhm.
range of options. You can have a really wide range of universities which don't provide the waiver. So I would recommend any student to write the IELTS exam.
Yes. Okay. Now coming to the documentation, basically, can you tell about SOP? What is SOP and how did you write a compelling SOP?
Yeah, the one thing that should be considered for SOP is that you should write it in such a way that you are really, really motivated about science. Like, you should give them an impression that like you have a really huge ambition to pursue your PhD, and that is what even the admission committee people are looking for. How I managed to write is, like, I just framed some questions, like. In my opinion, like, I just framed some questions which should be answered in the SOP. I answered them separately, and then I stitched the answers into a single
Mhm.
essay. And how what all things I wrote in my SOP are like about how I got inspired from Nobel Prize journey from Dr. Venki Ramakrishnan's autobiography. And I also explained about how my experience, although it's a computational project, it was some way related to structural biology. So I just explained what particular question that I asked in that project, and
Mhm.
how I managed to answer that question, how I addressed some challenges that I faced in that project. And all these things are important to like explain how good you are at managing problems and overcoming the challenges in the PhD journey. So all these things you should explain in the statement of purpose document.
Okay.
Maybe,
So
like, I'd be happy to share my CV and statement of
yes,
interest document if that can be of help to any students. I'm
yes,
happy to
that would be
sharing my
great.
documents to
That
anyone.
that would be great. That would be great. I would be really. It would be really helpful for other students. Okay, now let us move on to the interview and selection process. So, can you describe your interview experience for the PhD program, both in US and in Australia? How was the interview? Because you might be knowing that US university interviews have started now. So, how can students prepare for that, depending or contingent to the wherever the interview is? How was your experience?
Yeah, to be honest, they won't ask any difficult questions from the subjects, or they won't ask any question that is something like out of their syllabus. It's not like that, but most of the people will ask you to explain about your previous research experience, what you worked on before coming here, and they will ask you to explain your previous project, and they will ask some questions from that project. So for me, they just asked me explain about your previous projects, and I explained about the work I did, and they asked some specific questions, scientific questions, based on that particular project. So they will ask you questions only from what you have worked on. They will not ask you something out of the syllabus or something that's really difficult to answer. So, but you have to speak in a very confident manner. Like some things that are important in interview sessions are like you should be very confident in answering, and you should um, again talk in such a way that you have really huge ambitions and you want to pursue science and research. So those things are there. And for Australia, my professor asked me to do a presentation of my project, what I worked on previously. So I did prepare a presentation of the work, and after that he asked some questions from that particular presentation, and after that he was convinced to take me to his lab.
Okay. Yes, yes. So, do the professors also ask questions related to protocols? I receive many questions that how did you do this experiment? What were the steps that you did do it in this experiments? Are these kind of questions? I mean, these questions are generally related to Indian labs. Teachers or professors ask that what were the steps that you took to do this particular experiments? Does the same scenario appear in abroad interviews also?
Yeah, I remember that, like, as I said, I applied to some universities in Canada, and from I had this interview session in University of Toronto, in which one of the professors asked, "How did you manage to purify the protein?" Which I saw, for which I solved the structure. So they will ask you. Sometimes professors do ask you questions about the procedure you did for a particular technique, and I think it should be easy for you to answer. If you like, if you have worked on the project, you will
Mhm.
definitely know what you did, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it was easy for me to answer because I only did that work. No one did that work
Uh-huh.
instead of me.
No,
So
I basically wanted to ask that what buffer, suppose 5 moles of this, 2 moles of this, do you also need to remember all that?
no, no, no. No one will ask
Yes.
you such questions.
Hmm.
No one will
Okay.
ask you any question that is related to your memory power. Like, it is not
Yes.
about testing your memory, but it is
Yes.
about testing how good you are at analyzing the results,
Yes.
or like overcoming the challenges that you may face in a
Hmm.
particular experiment. So
Hmm.
they will never ask any question that is related to memory. And if
Hmm.
any person asks you such question, then it is some like it would mean
Red
that
flag. Yeah.
lab is not a good lab
Yeah.
for you to work
Yes.
in,
Yes. Yes.
because science is not about memory power.
Yes. 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 Okay. Now coming to your experiences abroad, since we have discussed about interview and everything. So, how has your experience been as an international student in Australia and in US, of course?
So in US, like the population of international students was really very less. I think in my batch there were only two international students, and in the particular lab I worked in, I was the only international student. So um, yeah, I did feel somewhat uncomfortable there, but I got adapted to the environment really very quickly.
Mhm.
So that was there in the US, and also the city in which I worked in US was such a city where you don't have a lot of Indian population.
Mhm.
I was in University of Rochester, which is in the Rochester city, which has a very very scarce population of international students and Indian population. But in Australia, it is really multicultural, and you have people from all parts of the world. And I didn't face any racism or anything related to nationality in Australia. Uh, so these things are there. Like when you go abroad, sometimes you'll have cultural shock, especially when you are brought up in a very small city in India or a small village in India, like I was brought up in. but it is good to also make a study about the city or the cultural things of the place you are going to work for a number of years. So if you get the admission, I think it's good to like learn about people there and the culture there, and yeah, you can do a study based on that.
Okay. So, since you have worked in number one university in India, Indian Institute of Sciences, Bangalore, so that is the most prominent institute in India, and you have worked abroad as well. What are the differences in basically, I'm talking about the academics. What are the differences, and what do you find? I mean, of course, you have mentioned that there is a work-life balance in abroad, and that is not seen in India. Apart from that, what differences do you find while you're
I
working in lab in
feel
India
that
and abroad?
like Indian professors and Indian students are really, really intelligent people, but the extent of research is limited by the funding. It's like when I was working in the working in ISC, we were working on this really big project on CRISPR-Cas12 system, which is a genetic engineering
Mm.
technique. Like CRISPR-Cas9 is very popular, but CRISPR-Cas12 is another genetic engineering system that's also being studied in the last few years. So it was a really big project, but we were having a lot of failure in the experiments, not because of any lack in knowledge or skills of the students or the professor. We were having failure in the experiments, and we were repeating the same experiments again and again because the instrument was faulty. You know,
Yes.
the equipment and the instruments were faulty, and the reagents are not of good quality. And although it is the number one institute in India, it is far behind the quality of equipments and instruments that are available in abroad. So that is there, like although you are really intelligent and your professor is really a good mentor, if the instrument or the reagents you are using is not good enough to provide you the best results, then that is also a factor that will be like really deteriorating for your research experience.
Okay. Yes. Now, since you would have definitely, since you, when you shifted to US and then you shifted to Australia, you might have felt a cultural shock. Can you tell about that? Can you share insights about cultural adaptation, lifestyle changes, and any specific challenges that you faced?
To be honest, I didn't have a lot of cultural shock because, I did like learn about the culture of people there, and I do read some books. Like I do read some novels and books, which help me to have a forward-thinking mindset and a progressive mindset. So, since I already had a progressive mindset, I didn't face a lot of cultural shock. But if you're a person who has some cultural limitations, and if you think you'll have some cultural shock in the foreign country, it's good to like learn about the other country's culture. And I think it's also important to have an open mindset. Like when you are, people say when you are in Rome you should be a Roman, right? So you cannot go to a foreign country and say like, oh, this is against our morals, oh, this is against our culture. You cannot do that because you are, at the end of the day, you are an immigrant there. So you
Uh-huh.
cannot judge their culture, you cannot judge the people there. Yeah, it's good to have an open mindset, forward thinking mindset, and never judge any person based on the culture they're following, or based on their even dressings and other things. Don't judge other people, and it's better to have a progressive mindset when you go to a foreign country.
Yes. Now, since you are in University of Melbourne, and a lot of students have basically now suddenly shifted their focus to Australia because of the, I mean, ease of getting admissions to the Australian universities rather than the US universities. Can you tell me how is the research environment in the University of Melbourne since you are present over there?
Yeah, here the research infrastructure is much much bigger than what I had in University of Rochester. To be honest, I was taken by shock by seeing the infrastructure that is here. Like, and even my professor, he is an alumni of MRC LMB, which you know is a
Mhm.
place where Nobel laureates work, and most of the Nobel Prize breakthroughs in the last few years have been from MRC LMB. And he did his PhD there, and he also did his postdoc in Caltech in US. But
Mhm.
still, after completing his postdoc, he did get some faculty positions in US as well as UK in really big places. But he still chose to join here in University of Melbourne for the research infrastructure that is available here. So in University of Melbourne, especially for structural biology research, I would say this is the biggest place. And in our lab, we are doing cryo-electron microscopy and cryo-electron tomography. And like this is the only place in the entire world where you have nearly 6 to 7 electron microscopes in the same institute, and
Wow.
no other place in the entire world has this infrastructure, especially for structural biology. So I would say the research infrastructure is like really great in University of Melbourne. And also like the funding that the professors here in University of Melbourne is much bigger compared to other universities. So like yeah, to tell about the funding and infrastructure, I think this is the best.
Okay. So, I mean, since you are a student over there, so in case of Australia, does the professor always give you the salary, or does he allocate funds for the students who are working under him, or there is a separate fellowship that you have to apply for?
So in University of Melbourne, like that, there is this option of like any student who does their application, there will be a checkbox in the application whether you want to apply for the graduate research scholarship, which will like through which the student will get their stipend from. So if the student manages to get the scholarship, stipend money will be from the university. Otherwise, in other cases, the professor will come forward to fund the student. For me, like I got a complete tuition waiver in University of Melbourne. My tuition fees is completely waived from the scholarship, but my stipend is provided by my professor's grant. So my professor came forward to give me the stipend, and that is how I am getting my salary here.
Okay, so just one little question, that is the stipend that PhD students get basically in US or in Australia, is it decent enough to support the life of the scholar, or do you have to work also apart from that in order to support yourself?
No, I don't think so. You have to do any part-time job, any other thing to support your living. Like in University of Rochester, my stipend was much enough for me. Like I did save a lot of money after my expenses. So like it was much enough for me to manage my living expenses in US. And in University of Melbourne also, the stipend is enough, but the living expenses in the city of Melbourne is high. But still I managed to save some amount of money, even after the high living cost here. I still managed to save some money without going for any part-time job or without doing any other work. So, and also being a PhD student, saving the time is more important than saving the money.
Yes, that is
So
what I wanted you to say
not
actually.
advisable PhD student to go for a part-time job looking for money. Don't do that, because
Yes.
your time is more important as a PhD student.
Okay.
So you don't have to worry about those things in a
Okay.
PhD.
Okay. Now, coming to the final question, what is the advice that Satya would want to give? What are your top tips for students planning to pursue higher studies abroad?
Yeah, the first and foremost tip I would give is to do careful study of the PI and the lab for which you are applying, because that is a mistake that I did, and that is the only crucial thing that can be of huge importance to your PhD journey. And like what the other things like salary, the city, or the QS ranking, they all don't matter. In my opinion, they all don't matter. Even if those things are like screwed up, you won't go to the extent of giving a voluntary resignation from the university. So I'd be happy to share my blog that I wrote based on my experience in the US. Like, I cannot explain all those things in this podcast due to time constraints, but I think I can share a link of my blog of what I faced in University of Rochester and what students should be aware of. So yeah, students can read about that. And so be very careful with the choice of your lab and choice of your PI. And next comes the extent of research done by the lab and the publications, whether they are publishing frequently. And I think the other things don't matter. Like, you can see whether there is a good Indian population in the city.
Mhm.
Like, you can see whether the city is multicultural and whether that has a good Indian population where you can connect with friends, because personal life and other things are also important when you live abroad. So, but those are secondary things you have to
Yes.
consider. The first and foremost thing is the lab and the PA. So these are some top tips that I will give to future students.
Yes. Okay. So, more or less, we have basically completed whatever I wanted to ask you. So, that is all for this particular this podcast. Thank you so much, Satya, for joining us in this podcast and sparing so much of your time. I understand that you keep extremely busy, but thank you so much. Students would definitely have learned a lot from you. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.